Good morning, everyone. Um, I hope you've had a good week. For those of you who have been with me for a few weeks now, the the ask that I had for everyone last week was try sitting 5 minutes every day in silence, in presence, and awareness. And I just wanted to check in with those that were here. We had about 70 some odd people on last week. Um, was anyone that was here last week or the week before actually able to sit or gave it a shot? Or some people that I see that are on here who have been sitting with me for a couple of years. How has your daily practice been going? Any challenges? Were you able to do it 2 days and then it fell off? Were you able to do it every day? How many minutes were you able to do it? I'm getting a lot of yeses. So people were able to do it every day. Um, People are someone sitting up to 15 minutes a day. Excellent. That's the work. That is exactly what we're doing here. I went quickly last week into the mission of the business that I built is to create a world where leaders are calm, focused, rooted in integrity, at peace. And that comes from the work that you've just done. You sit for even just 5 minutes every day. You're literally building your personal muscle of focus and integrity, of peace. If you can be at peace physically for even just 5 minutes a day, even if your mind is racing, if you feel whatever emotions are coming up, anxiety, isolation, fear, joy, if you can just sit with your reality, no matter what it is, no matter how much you might want to run, and develop that day after day, you are developing your integrity and you're developing the ability to sit with reality, to sit with anger, to sit with upheaval, to sit with isolation. And that ultimately is what peace is. Peace is not joy, sunshine, and rainbows. Peace is at the times of difficulty, being able to stay and look at it and be present to it. And this is the premise under which I operate, that world-changing decision-making power and discernment comes from an impenetrable foundation of focus and integrity. And each time you breathe and you focus and you stop, you're building your integrity. This is a body-based, physical, mechanical practice. It's not a mental practice. You still your body. You do not still your mind. You still your body for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. Over time, your mind will follow, right? So you build that impenetrable foundation of the ability to stay even when you want to run. That's integrity. Stay with what you truly know, not in your mind that says success or failure, right or wrong, your heart that says fear or desire, um, but with the quiet solid gravitas, which is the word that I love to use, that comes from what we've been working on, this lower belly breath. We don't work from our head nor our hearts. We work from our hips, right? And that's what you're building. So I'm really glad that people have been able to sit. And if you can't, that's okay. If you're only able to do one day and then you forgot about it the rest of the week, that's a great data point, right? Maybe 5 minutes was too much for you. So then go to 3. If you have to, go to 1 minute. Whatever you do, though, make it non-negotiable that you don't go to bed until you've sat for at least 1 minute or taken maybe at least 3 conscious breaths. And you do that every day. Even if it's just 3 conscious breaths every day, you nail that for a week. The next week, go to 1 minute. The week after that, you nail that every day, go to 3 minutes. You move up to 3 minutes and you can't do it every day, go back to 1 until you can go to 3 minutes every day. You're sitting for 5 minutes strong was easy, push up to 7, push up to 10, keep moving, keep building this muscle of stillness, but work from where you are. You know, if you can only do 3 breaths a day, that's what you can do. Start there. Good. Um, so let's actually do it, right? This is the work, right? So pause. Take a breath. Notice the room you're in. Notice your chair. Notice your body. Notice your posture. Exhale. Let yourself relax into this moment and breathe. Notice your breath. Let yourself become still. Let yourself be a little more quiet, a little more present, and continually more and more aware. This is your foundation. You have it. Now from here, let's take it up a little bit to the next level by getting the posture right. As we've said each week, you want to make sure that your posture is open. The main tool for that is you want an arch in your back, because when you arch your back, that pushes your sternum up and opens up your chest, right? But if I sit back in my chair, I can arch my back for a moment and then my spine will collapse over time. So there's an easy little trick. You sit on the last eighth of your chair, and when you do, let me bring this closer so you can see better. And when you sit on the last eighth of that chair, so that you don't fall on the floor, your back will naturally arch, and that will open up the sternum, that arch, open up the shoulders, and your shoulders relax. Elbows at your hips, at your side, hands flat, feet a little bit in front of you so that your knees are lower than your hips. If your knees are lower than your hips, your back will arch, and that's perfect form. That's all you have to do. So come back to your pause. Come back to this moment. And as most of you have been able to sit for 5 minutes a day, we're going to start right off with 5 minutes of quiet, aware attention. Long, slow, deep inhale. Exhale, let the morning drop, the day drop, the week ahead, the month ahead. Let go of 100 years and come into this very moment that you're alive. Eyes are open but cast down, resting on a spot on the floor. Then all of your attention is turned to the rise and the fall of the lower belly breath. I'll ring one bell to start and another bell at the end to complete. All of your attention is on your breath. Thoughts and feelings are allowed to be there. Just notice them and then come right back to your breath. This moment, this reality. So that was 5 minutes. How did it go for everyone? Any feedback? Any problems, challenges? Yeah, I apologize for the noise. I have kids in the house as well, and normally she stays in her room, but this time she decided to come out and visit. But that's reality, right? We all have kids in the house. We all have reality. Um, this is actually the whole point of meditation. Life is not silent and perfect. Life is not quiet and clean, right? The idea of this work is to sit and be with reality. There's noise, there's death, there's isolation, there's anger, there's fear. You sit with that, you look at it. This is not about going to some blissful, airy-fairy fantasy world where everything is perfect and rainbows and butterflies. That doesn't exist. And seeking it is the source of our suffering. Reality is always what it is, right here, right now, right? And there's a lot of useful and necessary information. And if we can learn to practice to sit and be with reality as it is, we can live with anything, right? So this is the practice. Okay, so some questions. My mind was wandered. My mind was distracted, so I went in and out. Yeah, welcome to the club. My mind's distracted all the time, right? I've been doing this for 22 years. Like I said last week, the historical Buddha had to do this practice to the day he died. He was a man. It's a practice like any other muscle. You can build up and get super strong, but if you stop practicing, the muscle will atrophy, right? So we first build up the practice, but then we have to maintain it. I've learned through my years, what used to be a 5 or 15-minute practice for me seemed plenty and a lot. Now I have to do a minimum of 40 minutes twice a day. And I crave and need extended, long, silent retreats, weeks, 10 days, where it's really going into the quiet, where whole other realms, not realms, realities open up, where you hear yourself more and you understand that your feelings and your thoughts are signals, but you have space from them and you're no longer identifying with them. And so the more and more you can question your own mind and assumption, the more possibility arises, the more peace with reality arises, because you realize that what you think is right or wrong, good or bad, is just your mind. But it takes a long time to get that distance from it. So wherever you are now, you start practicing and you build from there. Does your breath need to be steady? I find mine isn't. Um, uh, Breath needs to be steady. Your breath, you're just observing your breath. Your breath is your anchor to the present moment, right? Our minds can wander into stories of the past and ideas for the future in a heartbeat and get into arguments in our heads and whatever. And the breath is the anchor that brings you back to this moment, because the breath is always moving with reality. Reality doesn't stop. Time doesn't stop. There's nowhere to land. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to get to. It's just constant movement, right? Your breath is constantly moving too. So it's the anchor that you have to this moment. If you're constantly paying attention to your breath, you'll see it's constantly moving. If you're feeling every millimoment of inhale and exhale, you are with the constant changing reality of life. So yeah, it's not steady. But then over time, I find that, especially if I've been on a 3 to 5 day silent retreat, by day 2, I'm starting to get into this real quiet steadiness because I'm living that way. And that's when the bigger things open up, right? The big questions about life and death and meaning and purpose really start to become something that you can look at. But, in the beginning, there's no steady. And even, again, going back to the guy Siddhartha Gautama, who we have statues around about, he had a practice to the day he died too, because his mind was never steady. Welcome to the club. Good work. Can you meditate on your back? I find it easier to do belly breathing lying down. Um, I don't recommend that, because this is a physical posture. This is about being awake and alert. And when you're on your back, it's about relaxation and, some idea of calm or peace that we create that then becomes some other thing that we're trying to attain. You know, when we're younger, we're trying to attain popularity or, you know, wealth or power or intellect or whatever it is. And as we get older, we try to attain happiness or peace. They're all ideas, right? It's just this reality. And the work is to stay in reality. And that's what the form is about. You get this silent, upright, structured form, and you use that, and it can carry you through life. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lay down through my life. I want to live it. I don't want to close my eyes and go off somewhere else. I want to be alive to life, to all it has to offer. Because as we know, you can't cut off the bad stuff without also cutting off the good stuff. You learn to suppress, you suppress everything, right? Um, if you're looking to escape to, you know, some blissful realm of, you know, cherries and ice cream, um, you're never in reality, and you can never be in reality, and then that's not really integrity. That's not true peace, you know. So that's why, does belly breathing mind your stomach poaches out? Like, I teach that in the beginning, um that, you know, to really get a feel for the lower belly breath, if you're used to just breathing in your upper chest or in your ribs, or even in just in your nose, I teach you pressing the belly in and out. And I've done that for a few years until it became quieter and just natural. So yeah, press your belly in and out. You don't want to overbreathe. You don't want to do deep inhales and deep exhales. It's a slow, regular breath. You're paying attention to your breath as it is. You're not trying to, just like reality. You're not trying to force reality. Um, you are paying attention to your reality as it is, how you are breathing. Just pay attention to it. Don't try to force it or change it. And the other problem is that if you're doing deep breaths the whole time, you will become dizzy and uh, you will deplete your oxygen reserves. It's like trying to blow up a huge hot air balloon. After a while, you just lose it. We don't want to do that to the body. A few deep breaths can bring attention and a little bit more aware and awake into your body in the beginning. But then after that, just return to a natural breathing pattern. Yeah. Okay. My mind was distracted, so I went in and out. Again, yeah, welcome to the club. It happens. This is why we practice. The more you practice, the less distracted you get. This is why, again, to actually answer the other person's question as well, we don't lay on our back. Our job here is to practice staying in reality. And that's why this quiet, still physical presence allows us to do it. The form, just like the push-up form allows you to do a push-up, this like upright, solid posture allows you to physically stay in reality, and over time your mind will follow. You do not still your mind. You can't. No one can. You still your body, and you practice the physical discipline of stillness, and you keep practicing coming back to the breath. That's this reality. That's the anchor to this reality. Over time, your mind will still itself. It's like the puddle after a storm. If you try to force down all the dirt, you just keep stirring it up. If you let it be still, the mud and the silt fall on their own and the water becomes clear. The same with your mind. You let your body be still, your mud will fall on its own. But you got to be awake to it. Okay. My eyes wander when they're open. Yes, that's actually a great observation. You will notice that your eyes start to wander before your mind does, if you're really paying acute attention. And I realized this about 15 years ago. I was on a long retreat, and all of a sudden I had this epiphany that I'm looking at something, but then my eyes start darting around, and next thing you know, I'm off in a story, right? I'm no longer in the room. I'm definitely no longer in my body. I'm out in la la land. So if you can notice that your eyes are darting, and you just slowly try to let them focus on one spot. The challenge here is that if you stare at a spot, you're going to exhaust your eyes. So you're gently resting your eyes. I have a wood table here, and it's got all sorts of markings on it. I find a little spot. I let my eyes rest there. And then once my eyes start to get tired, it kind of gets a little fuzzy, I consciously choose another spot to move them to. But if my eyes move without me choosing, just like if I'm sitting still and all of a sudden I notice I'm itching my head, right? Oh, who's in control here? My arm just raised. I'm sitting still, but all of a sudden I'm moving without me even knowing it. This is how you begin to build conscious awareness. So if you realize that your eyes are wandering when they're open, you're building your own consciousness. And then eventually you'll begin to notice when you're feeling angry before you even know you're angry. And then eventually you'll begin to notice when you're feeling anxious, and you can begin to do something about it before it's taken over your life. That's what these disciplines are about. And yes, meditating with your eyes open is so much harder. You know, living with your eyes open is harder when we've learned through much of our society to push reality away, whether it's through drinking or work or being busy or accomplishing things. It's very hard for us to look at reality as it is and stay with it. So it's going to be hard at first, but it's a muscle anyone can build. You started today, you've done it. I learned to meditate saying ahem to myself, but I get caught up trying to sing. Yeah. See, yeah. So the tricks sometimes can be helpful in the beginning, ahem or a word or whatever. I really do. I try to stay away from them because they're crutches, right? There's this great saying by an old Zen master, your sole purpose in life is as thought becomes thought, thought succeeds thought, succeeds thought, to not attach to any of them. And one of his contemporaries said something similar. Your job in life is just to activate the mind, to activate it, be aware, right? But not attached to any one thing, right? Not get stuck anywhere. When you're saying a word or visualizing something or closing your eyes, right? You're going somewhere else, right? You're pushing it. You can't hear reality when you're talking over it, right? So the practice is just pay attention to the breath. Pay attention to the one thing you're doing when you're still, and it will carry you. Yeah, I was counting 10 seconds in and out. These are great tools in the beginning. I'm not going to, like, you have to do what's also right for you, right? Especially in the beginning. I know for the first few years I practiced trying to go to 10 breaths without a thought. And every time I had any thought, I had to go back to one. And that was like, inhale is one, exhale, inhale two, exhale. And I could never get to breath 3 without a thought for years, right? And they say, actually, if you actually can get to 10, you're deceiving yourself, right? So these are great tools in the beginning. Use them as you need to, but eventually build your own muscle of awareness. Don't count on the counting. Don't count on the words. Use what you need now, but I'm telling you, if you could sit for 5 minutes right now, you can do anything. There's a bunch of other teachings that I want to get into. And I'm going to leave you with this, and then we're going to do a closing meditation. But this is one of my favorite readings that I use with my private clients when we go more into the curriculum of how to actually look at your mind a little bit more critically. And this is a beautiful fable. So Ching, the master woodcarver, carved a bell stand so intricately graceful that all who saw it were astonished. They thought a god must have made it. The Marquis of Lu asked, "How did your art achieve something of such unearthly beauty?" "My lord," Ching said, "I'm just a simple woodcarver. I actually don't know anything about art. But here's what I can tell you. Whenever I begin to carve a bell stand, and actually make this personal. Are you a lawyer? Whenever I begin to write a brief. Am I a teacher? Whenever I start a lesson plan or I sit down with a kid. Am I a cook? Whenever I, get out the garlic and onions, right? Whatever it is that you begin to do, whatever it is that you create, you're an entrepreneur. Whenever you start to work with your business plan, or you're a salesperson, whenever you open up your CRM, whenever I begin to do whatever it is that I do, whenever I begin to carve a bell stand, I concentrate my mind. Just as you all practice concentrating your mind for 5 minutes. That's what he did. I concentrate my mind. After 3 days of silent presence awareness meditation, I no longer have thoughts of praise or blame. After 5 days, I no longer have thoughts of success or failure. After 7, I'm not even identified with the idea of Kirsten, with my body, with myself, my identity, my ego. All my power is focused on my task. There's no distraction. It's at that point, and not before it, that I enter the mountain forest, or that you open up the book, or that you start writing, or whatever. I examine the trees until exactly the right one appears. If I can see a bell stand inside it, the real work is done, and all I have to do is get started. Thus, I harmonize inner and outer. That's why people think my work must be superhuman. Mozart used to say that he could hear the entire symphony, every last note of every instrument, and then he just had to write it down. His work was to get out of the way. Any great artist, writer, musician will tell you, any creator, their work is to get out of the way. And you know that if you start thinking about, is this going to be successful? Is this going to fail? Will people love it? Will people hate it? It corrupts the work. And that's why we get distance from our mind and our thoughts. Because if we can be in reality and let creativity come through us, right? Let whatever is reality come through us, it will lead the way. But we have to develop this silent, present gravitas to really hear and be present and aware in order to use it. Let's sit one last time for 5 minutes. I'll hang on for a few minutes afterwards for any Q&A. But let's do the real work of actually being present to ourselves. So again, come into your best posture. Let everything that I just talked about fall away. Doesn't matter. The real work is right now in the actual practice. A long, slow, deep inhale, becoming present, awake, and aware. Exhale, relax. Become a little bit more focused and anchored. Find a spot to rest your eyes gently on the floor or on the table in front of you. And then turn all of your attention to the rise and fall of your belly breath. This is your time. This is your life. Practice paying attention to it. Stay in your body. Stay with your breath. Stay awake. Stay here. Great work, everybody. So my challenge for you for the next week is extend your practice. I'm more concerned about consistency than duration. So it's more important that you do something every single day, and then once you've done something every day, then start extending it. So if you haven't done something every day, make sure you're nailing it every day. If you were able to do 5 minutes every day, move up to 7 minutes. If you weren't able to do 5 minutes every day, go to 3 and make sure you're getting that done. And next week, let me know how it's going. You all have my contact information. And just really, I mean, what a great time and what an apt time to realize how important it is to stay in reality. How aware and awake and acutely aware we need to be. And this is your practice. Good luck. Good luck. Okay, I'm going to stay on for anyone that has any more questions. I see one. Feeling tension in my back. Will my back get stronger? It will. Your back will get much stronger. Stronger. Okay, and then thanks for the tips on 2 more messages. Do I have any recommended readings? Oh, yes. I have so many recommended readings. I have all these books like right here. I love them. I would start, the book that I start everyone with is The Tao Te Ching, specifically by Stephen Mitchell. And this is, I'm actually transcribing it. This is what mine looks like, right? When you get this, and you can actually find a PDF of it online, but it doesn't have the foreword. And you have to read the foreword to get the most out of it. I carry a copy of since 1996, I've had a copy of this book on me at all times. This is my favorite go-to book on how to question your own mind and how to be still and patient. I've put up a quote a few weeks now. Do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and your water is clear? It's right out of this, right? The second book that I recommend, also by Stephen Mitchell, because he's one of my favorite. Also, anything that he's translated by Rilke, if you're into poetry, Letters to a Young Poet by Stephen Mitchell, stunning work. The second book of the Tao, Stephen Mitchell, is where that master woodcarver came from. And what's so great about that is he'll write the parable on one side and then do his commentary on the other. And his commentaries are brilliant. He sat in a Zen monastery for 14 years. So he's done the work, he's looked at his mind and seen through it, and he brings that. And then he's also just this beautiful wordsmith and poet, and he's so, he knows all the classical music and the writers. So he brings that beautiful intellect into his still writings. And so I really recommend anything by Stephen Mitchell. He has some great works out there that are mostly translations, but some of his own. He does Gamalgamash. What else do I have from him up there? Really great stuff. I'll think of some more. I'll think of some other nice readings for next week. Any other questions? All right. Hey, I'm so grateful for all of you guys being here. Practice strong. You are doing incredible. Even if you're just you're getting 3 breaths in a day, that's changing your mental, your literal neural lining, your neural pathways. Every time you take a focused present breath, you are rewiring your brain. Have a great week. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for everything. Sit strong.